Making your country a superpower is much simpler than you think it would be. You literally only need two things: a big population and money. And getting both at the same time is the big issue. That's why we only have a handful of superpowers in the world, and the reason why Luxembourg is not a superpower. Sure, yeah, they get the money, the highest GDP per capita in the world in fact, but their population is like 3 people. If they needed to draft people in a war or something, they have around 200,000 people fit for the military, and if you take their neighbor, an actual superpower, they have more than double that active personnel. That means if Luxembourg went scratching the barrel in Hoi 4, every last person they could get, they still would not be close to France's active military. Now, if Luxembourg had a population of 30 million with their GDP per capita, it would be over for all of us. That shit would make a Rome look like a Warsaw before the reconstruction. But fitting 30 million people in Luxembourg would make Hong Kong's dense apartments look like nothing, which is why rich countries with big populations are usually big land-wise, because they're like, we can't fit all these motherfuckers in here. Actually, this part of Belgium is more ethnic Luxembourgish, and we need to protect the Luxembourgish speaking population, so we're gonna do a special military operation with Belgium so we can get more land. Recently, going on X is literally like this.
Leave me alone!
And going on Instagram Reels is exactly like this. Oh, I'm just looking at some funny memes and oh shit! Since most people get their news sources from the internet, some less valid than the others, is why Ground News is today's sponsor. Ground News basically covers every single article of news in the world with zero bias. Their whole company is based on eliminating bias and showing you where your news come from. For example, as we said, population growth is important, and here is an article saying that Canada reported record population growth. You can see how each side of the spectrum reports these news, like left, center, and the right. My favorite feature has to be the bias insights button, because it gives you the summary, like the left being like, hey, I can't afford a house, it costs like 5 billion Canadian pesos, and the right taking the more neutral approach and doesn't emphasize anything about the houses. And you can also scroll down and see which sources have a high factuality rate, and if you hop on the Ukraine news, you will also know if you are reading Russian propaganda or not. Owner, the government of Russia, and low factuality. It seems about correct from what I'd seen. There's also the blind spot feature, which is cool because it shows you the news that have not been covered for one or the other side of the spectrum, which is good so you don't miss out on fun news like this. They have a holiday sale going on right now, so I suggest you click the link in my description, ground.news/Gattsu, and subscribe to get access for less than $1 a month. Or for a limited time, you can take advantage of their holiday sale and receive 40% off the Vantage subscription, which is the plan I use. Thank you Ground News for sponsoring my video. They support this channel, so go and support them. Of course, with land, there are countries that are exceptions, such as discovery of the New World. You see, Europol borders relatively make sense because we've had thousands and thousands of years of history to get to the borders we have today. In the New World, such as the Americas and Oceania, were just colonized and got the borders they have today. Same goes with Africa, which is by far the fakest borders in the world. Nothing there is based off ethnicities or tribes or anything. The British and the French just put a ruler on the map and went like, so this is Sudan? Now, a lot of y'all won't have kids because you are too addicted to femboys. I suggest the Roman ideology about it, which is, sure, you can be with femboys, but be sure when you grow up, you give up childish things such as pussy and start family with a woman. I think I heard that from DJ Peach Cobbler. Population growth can be achieved in 2 ways. One is natural population growth, and the second is immigration. Now, natural population growth throughout history only used to happen because dads saw their kids as essentially free labor. Not really free, but when people were more agricultural instead of making hentai games on Steam, having extra kids were good. But also they had more kids because child healthcare was ass. Like, you guys do not understand just how many kids died because the healthcare was shit back then. Today, a baby dying is a tragedy. Back then, that shit was like, damn, tough luck. Honey, spread your cheeks for me, please. In the United States in the 1800s, which wasn't even that long ago, 46% of kids did not make it to their 5th birthday. That is an absolutely insane statistic. Today, it's 5.4%. So I guess you can understand why people were making kids like nothing. This is also the case today in a lot of countries. For example, in African countries and poorer countries, the birth rate is pretty high, and a lot of that is because healthcare is not the best there. However, you can't be like, okay, well, we need to grow our population, so let's just reverse the industrial revolution in our country and make our healthcare shit so people have more kids on the off chance they survive. Admittedly, it is a good plan, but it's very unethical, so we have to look for other means. Because we want our country to both have a big population and be rich, you can't be rich if you teleport yourself back 300 years. What are you gonna want next, bro? Burning women at the stake because they know basic math? This brings us to money. Money is a major determining factor in a country's natural population growth because kids are very expensive in most first world countries. They're now seen as a liability rather than free labor that you just have to feed once in a while, which is why every single first world country has stopped growing their population naturally and resorts to immigration. To be honest, I do not have an answer for this. You know why? Because no fucking first world country has a growing fertility rate. How am I supposed to find this shit out myself? So the fertility rate is how many kids someone needs to have to replace the population. Just 2.1. 2 to replace the parents, and 0.1 is a safety measure to account for death or infertility. So you need a fertility rate of 2.1, and let's look at all the first world countries. Italy 1.3, Canada 1.5, Spain 1.4. You people are fucked. And I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but you might see me as some sort of Georgian wolfman demigod that knows everything, which I am. Unfortunately, still professionals have been trying to figure this out and could not do so. So I do not have an answer for this yet. How do I get more people to start fucking? We had Kim Jong-un crying because his population doesn't get pussy. It's a complicated matter. There are things a country can do to help, such as making life livable. One of the major reasons why Japan's population decline is so shit is because their population is literally overworked to death. They have a separate word in their language which means death from overwork, so you know that shit is serious. I'm all about my grind as well. However, how important is the grind if you have no family and you die alone at the end of it? See, the grind isn't really everything. However, we do still need to work to make money and buy Versace fragrances, so what I would recommend is actually less work so people can have time to enjoy their lives more and have time to go outside and get dick or coochie. You think a Japanese man has the time or the energy to make babies after working a full day and then going out for social drinks with co-workers afterwards, which is essentially a requirement in Japanese work culture? His dick probably doesn't even work. Give that man a break. Japanese workers take the least amount of vacation time in the world, and this toxic work culture hurts them very much. Overworking yourself does not make you produce more work, it makes you less productive and you just produce shit at the end of it because you're so overworked and tired. All you're worried about is getting that check. Personally, when I was working in that night shift call center, I was doing the bare minimum to not get fired until I quit. I was a professional. I was an animal at it. Some of you might call me an unemployed loser, but I think 4-day work weeks are great and can contribute a lot to society, especially since people's productivity has improved drastically and we don't need to be slaving the rest of our lives. Gen Z kind of got the hand of this as well. Like, motherfuckers are just quitting jobs like nothing.
No, I don't know if y'all like me, but I'm the type of guy, I leave jobs at the earliest convenience. I could walk in and it smell wrong. I quit. One time I quit a job because my stomach was hurting. Because why is my stomach hurting at the workplace?
More work means fewer babies, and the birth rate started declining mostly after women entered the labor force. Because as women move their focus from homemaking to becoming members of the labor force, the birth rate declines. And we can't just put 50% of the workforce out of the workforce now, so we gotta find some other way. Other tricks that governments use to incite population growth is, for example, in Austria, they give a monthly family allowance to help out with the financial costs of raising your dumb fucking kid. Tax breaks for people with children and bigger tax breaks for people with 2 or more children, and etc. But at this point, I'm just spitting shit here. Austria's fertility rate is ass too, so I'm just saying what should work in theory but doesn't. Although the fertility rate might be even lower if these incentives hadn't been put in place. Also, Canada has a very bad fertility rate, and I think a major reason for that is the insane real estate prices. I know you people might think that your country's real estate prices are bad too, but trust me bro, none of us can compare to Canada. If you want to have a child, you would rather not be renting the house that your kid is gonna grow up in. That, and being one of the most expensive countries in the world, is a combination for people not having many kids. Then the question comes, if Canada bad fertility, why population grow? Then there comes immigration. Now, immigration is definitely a tool for increasing population. However, it comes with a lot of societal issues, which essentially boils down to, it looks different from me, kill, kill, kill. Only place where this is not really an issue is the United States, because the United States is by far the least racist country in the world. If you ever think for a second that Europe is the least racist place in the world, you are very mistaken. Ask them what they think about Romas and watch them turn into Hans Landa. A lot of European countries have been using immigration as a tool to fix their birth rates, because without immigration their population would be like 10 people by the next 2 generations, and as we already know, you can't be a superpower with 10 people. There are ways that make immigration more valid society-wise. The more a country's population has in common with immigrants, the less racist they are towards them, and more likely will good integration happen. For example, not a lot of people are complaining about bad blonde Christian Ukrainian girls going to their country, but it's a problem for them when Middle Easterners go there. From all my time watching racist Instagram reels, I've gathered that to not disturb the racists of your population with immigration, the people coming in should be white and Christian. Now that is a hard quota to meet, because most of those people are European and they're not really bothered by moving to other countries to make money, because chances are they're already good within their own country. Of course, there is the exception of Eastern Europe, where people move a lot because they can't make a good living in their own country, but even Eastern Europe is far better off than African or Middle Eastern countries. This is why I think that the European Union is also trying to expand, not only to get more influence, but to get more people in the European family. 23.82 million new people without Ukraine, and 67 million new people in the European family with Ukraine added in the equation. Less controversial than immigrants from the Middle East who don't share the same religion or ethnicity. Now, you want to make your country a superpower? You gotta get your money up, not your funny up. That's just the way it is. If your country has oil, then you found the get rich quick scheme that actually works. Now just try not to become an asshole dictator. I know for some of y'all that is harder, especially 2 of my neighbors, right, that have oil. Only like Norway has been able to have oil and not be like insanely corrupt. I personally have a conspiracy theory that coffee consumption is what makes a country wealthy, because you become tweak. And before you call me crazy, the statistics back me up. But for real though, real ones make it out the hood, and you especially make it out the hood if you have something to offer the world. Now, you gotta look around and see what you and your population can offer the rest of the world. You can turn into exporting natural resources raw, or you can do the Swedish model. The Swedes used to export steel in World War I, but then the Swedes thought, instead of just exporting our raw materials, why don't we make cool shit with those materials and then sell it? So then when the Volvos came in, ooh, cheap and reliable car that also looks cool and is good, yeah, people ate that shit up, along with companies like Ericsson and a bunch of other engineering companies, Blade, Minecraft. Sweden became insanely rich, going from being in debt in the early 1900s to now being one of the richest countries in the world. Today, almost none of their exports are raw material. They're all cool engineered and much more expensive stuff that they made from those materials. Are you broke? Does your broke ass, ugly ass country not have any resources they can export and is essentially a wasteland? Look no further. I present to you the Estonian model. All you have to do is get a bunch of little twinks on their computers and teach them about technology. Looking at Estonia's export graphs is pretty funny. Mostly it is technological electronic stuff, and then there is coal tar oil, telling you a lot about the 2 types of Estonian men that exist. Also, this technological stuff was all planned from Estonia. Their computer revolution program was literally called Estonia. Now they're the richest post-Soviet country per capita. Good job, guys. I'm not jealous at all. Maybe Georgia could have also done that if we hadn't been invaded by Russia 4 fucking times in a span of 17 years. A lot of the reason why Eastern European countries are poorer than their Western counterparts is because of corruption, and that corruption is a leftover from the Soviet times, where essentially all of Eastern Europe was under the USSR, and the USSR was extremely corrupt. Bro, we engineered that shit, bro. The whole country was not run by communism, rather corruption. Corruption bad because when a few idiots take all the country's money for themselves, it results in a lot of people being dirt poor, and then the others being able to buy 8 Lamborghinis like nothing. And over time, as corruption has been dwindling in Eastern European countries, they've been getting richer. What? Who knew that instead of using people's education funds for education, instead of buying Lambos for you, would benefit the society of the country? Not Soviet motherfuckers, that's for sure. Reinvesting in your population is the best thing you can do for money. That's why most European countries have free university/college, because yeah, whatever money that you're not gonna be gaining from students paying university fees, you're gonna make more than that in the taxes that you're gonna get from those same people who graduate and get high-paying jobs. A lot of people in the United States can't go to universities or choose not to because it's too expensive. concept. The United States does actually have one of the world's highest college degree statistic, but it's bad that the population has to be paying off their student loan debt, which reached 1.63 trillion in 2023. The US student debt loan alone is nearly the whole GDP of Russia. Meanwhile, most European countries get free school from birth until a person finishes their university degree. Aside from the coffee thing, I think the percentage of educated people is the most important determining factor in whether or not a country is going to be rich. If you look at the list of places where people have completed extra education such as university, technical training institute, college, and etc., every single one of these countries is a successful country. Except of course this one. This one did not meet the corruption quota that we talked about. So essentially, once you start making bank, you gotta reinvest in your own population and not use that money corruptly. Gattsu out.